Hello, I'm Russell Rowland, author of 56 Counties, A Montana Journey. When I traveled to every county in Montana and then read dozens of books about our history, there were three major themes that struck me about Montana and its people. The first is that the people who live here, no matter how long they've been here, absolutely adore this place. They are committed to making sure it remains one of the best states in the country. The second thing is that despite the fact that Montana has more natural resources than almost any state in America, we have never been a wealthy state. The reason for this is not that complicated, because from the time the Copper Kings rigged the tax system so that they were paying almost no taxes, outsiders have found a way to exploit our resources and our people to make money for themselves, while putting almost nothing back into the state. When William Clark died as one of the wealthiest men in the world, he had been away from Montana for decades, spending his fortune on an impressive art collection and several mansions all over the world. But he left behind one of the worst environmental wastes in the history of our country. Since then, we've had the asbestos disaster in Lincoln County, where R.W. Grace lied about the effects of asbestos on the water, until it was exposed years later that people were dying by the dozens from the effects. We've had the Bakken, where countless outside companies have grown wealthy from the influx of oil production, but have left little behind in the way of helpful infrastructure for Montanans. The third thing that struck me about our history is that despite the fact that we've been vulnerable to these outside influences, mostly because of their promise of jobs, Montanans have always shown a strong knack for knowing when politicians are pulling the wool over our eyes. As a state, we've had some of the finest leaders we could ask for through the years, and almost all of them have been committed to keeping the state viable because they have a long family history here. Senators Lee Metcalf and Max Baucus and Congressmen Pat Williams and Ron Marlenet were all born and raised in Montana and went on to become strong advocates for our state's interest. Jon Tester is another great example. We also have a long history of governors who were born and raised in Montana. Tom Judge, Ted Schwinden, Brian Schweitzer, and our current governor, Steve Bullock, who has handled the current situation brilliantly. Even the politicians who weren't born here had a strong connection to this place that gave them an incentive to make Montana strong, with the best example being Mike Mansfield, who once shoveled slag in the mines in Butte before becoming a teacher, and finally, the longest-running majority leader in the U.S. Senate, a man highly respected on both sides of the aisle. Today, we are in danger of losing this kind of leadership, and it's frightening to me. Once again, we are facing a situation where wealthy outsiders have looked at what Montana has to offer and seen the possibilities not to improve Montana, but to make themselves even wealthier. Greg Gianforte, who is from New Jersey, is already the wealthiest member of U.S. Congress, but that's not enough for him. He was one of the members of Congress who invested in the company that produces hydroxychloroquine, the drug President Trump falsely promoted as a cure to the coronavirus. Gianforte has shown from the time he became a public figure in Montana that his primary interest is in figuring out a way to use our resources to his advantage, even blocking access to public lands through his own property. He's also supported countless legislation that allows access to outside corporations to develop mining and oil production in our state. He supported every tariff, ignoring the fact that they have done serious damage to the agricultural community in Montana. Gianforte once said in an interview, "Money is more important than your mother." He's shown this in every executive decision he's made since becoming a congressman. Does that sound like typical Montana values? As many of you know, Steve Daines, who falsely claims to be a sixth-generation Montanan, even though he was born in Van Nuys, California, made his own fortune working for Gianforte's company. Daines is cut from the same cloth, putting himself and his wealthy friends ahead of the hardworking people of Montana. And of course, Matt Rosendale, the man who claimed in his last bid for election to be a rancher, despite the fact that his ranch had no livestock, made his fortune in real estate in Maryland. I'm not here to tell you who to vote for, but I am here to tell you that we can do better than these men, and we always have. We're a state that has shown a strong sense of logic and common sense. A state that has seen through the carpetbaggers who think they can come in and tell us what's best for Montana. And at a time when everything is in flux, we really must do better. Our future is at stake. Thank you, and please get out there and vote.